Get in here, get in here, get in here, baby, because I'm going to teach you 7 questions that you need to be asking on every first date if you're looking for your king. I don't know about you, baby, but I don't have time to waste, okay? I'm not about the business of going on 3-4 dates with somebody before I figure out, is this person worth my time or not? I'm not about the business of ending up in a situationship or a relationship with somebody before I realize, oh shoot, we have completely different values. We are not on the same page. I did that in my 20s, okay? And I'm not trying to repeat that stuff. So I'm gonna teach you 7 questions that I have developed based on my own experience coaching women all around the world on how to date and how to find their king. And also from looking at my own life and my own dating experience. These are questions that I wish I would have asked some of my past partners, which would have allowed me to not end up dating them in the first place, which would allow me in a lot of cases not even end up going to a second date. Here's my belief. I don't think that it takes 3, 4, 5 dates or 3, 4, 5 weeks or months to be able to determine if someone is at the very least compatible with you. When I say compatible, that doesn't mean you're going to be together with them forever, but it does mean, are we at least aligned? Are we looking for the same things? Do we have similar values? You can figure that out usually within one conversation if you ask the right questions. I'll also tell you this, for some of you all, y'all are going to hear this listening and be like, oh my God, some of these questions feel a little intense. I don't know how I can ask all these questions on the first date without feeling like I'm interrogating him. I get that, darling. You have to understand, I'm very charming, and there's an approach that I take on that allows me to ask plenty of questions, and the person doesn't even feel like I've asked them questions. But if you don't have the MJ Harris charm, I'll try to teach you that within one of our future videos. Then what I want you to do is I want you to focus on trying to get these questions answered by the time you have your second date. So some of these questions you may ask on the first date, some of them you may ask in a phone conversation after the date. It doesn't matter when you ask them, just make sure that you do not give anyone more than 2 dates, more than 2 appearances before you get these questions answered, because literally these questions will help you to be able to sift out people who are looking for a relationship versus people who are looking to waste your time. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. Question number 1 is pretty obvious. What are you looking for? This is one of these questions where honestly, I used to be very uncomfortable with the idea of asking a guy, what are you looking for? I didn't want to feel like I was coming on too strong. I didn't want to seem thirsty. I didn't want to seem like I was too pressed for a relationship. Like, what are you looking for? I felt uncomfortable asking it, but here's the problem. Every time I didn't ask that question, and then I ended up getting to know a guy, we ended up spending more and more time together. We even end up, maybe becoming intimate and really developing a bond. Then later on down the road, what would happen is that I would later find out that he viewed what we were doing very differently than I viewed what we were doing. I was thinking that we were building a relationship. Meanwhile, he thought that we were just hanging out. This happened multiple times. And so what I learned was that he was not 100% in the wrong. I would have loved to believe that these kinds of guys were in the wrong, but really what it was that with these guys, I was not asking them up front what they were looking for. And because I didn't ask them, I also was not telling them explicitly what I was looking for. So I've learned this. Ask people what they're looking for up front. That's a first date kind of question. Shoot, honestly, I'm gonna ask you that question before I even go on a first date with you, because there's no reason for me to go on a date with you if we're not looking for the same thing. You can ask in the phone call before the date, because I do believe in pre-date calls. You meet somebody out and about and they're like, oh, let's exchange information. Y'all are texting or whatever, and then they're like, hey, I'd love to meet up with you for a drink. I'd love to meet up with you for some coffee. I'd love to have dinner or go on a hike, whatever you guys want to do. Now I say, sure, let's jump on the phone just to love to talk to you real fast. We get on the phone, and while we're talking, I'm just gonna throw in there at some point in time, I don't mean to be too direct, but what are you looking for? I'll tell you why I'm asking this. I'm asking this because, at this stage of my life, it's really great to meet a handsome man like yourself. And for me, I'm flattered at the idea of being able to go on a date with someone like you, but I just want to make sure that, I'm putting my energy into the right place. So, just curious, what are you looking for? I put it right out there to him, okay? And when he tells me, I would tell him what I'm looking for as well. But I try to get him to answer before I answer, because some men will shape what they say to you based on what you say. So if you say, I'm looking for my husband, my da-da-da-da-da, then he's gonna say, oh, what do you know? I'm looking for my wife. So I try to get them to answer first. That's just me. But regardless, Ask them, what are they looking for? What I found is that people are more likely to tell you the truth when they don't know you versus down the road when they know you, you've got more of a bond and they got more at stake, okay? So people will tell you the honest truth about what they're looking for if you ask it early. My second question is, are you single? That is very important. I'm telling you this, I live in LA and these jokers here, some of them will go on an outright date with you multiple times and will have a whole ass girlfriend at home, will have a whole ass boyfriend at home, will have a whole situation and kids, okay? And they will say, well, you never asked me. Literally, that is how they think. It is asinine, but this is how they think. So what I do is I ask, are you single? But I have a follow-up question to, are you single? After they say, yeah, I'm single, then I say, well, let me also ask you this. Is there anyone who would be offended by the idea that you're out with me right now? Right? Because I want to know, is anybody else staking claims on you? Another question I might ask with the are you single question is I'll say, are you in a relationship? And they say, no, I'm not in a relationship. I would say, well, does anyone believe that they're in a relationship with you? Why do I ask this? Because again, it is not a given that because someone is on a date with you that they're single. You have to understand this. People have very different values. And although within my value system, I don't go on dates if I'm in a relationship. I'm not going to go on a date with somebody else. That doesn't mean that that's everyone else's value system. So don't make the assumption that everyone else has the same values as you. You need to ask this question in order to avoid being hurt and having your time wasted. Another question that I ask is, do you prefer monogamy? So I'll tell you this, I don't think that monogamy is the right way or the wrong way, nor do I think in an open relationship is the right way or the wrong way. You do whatever works for you. What I can tell you for myself is that when I'm in a relationship, I believe in only being with one person and them only being with me. I'm not going to be sexual with other people. I'm not going to develop some strong emotional bond with someone else, because you can have emotional affairs too. I'm focused on my partner. That is, call it traditional, that's just my values, right? So with that understood, I have learned to ask people this because I've been outright blindsided by people where you're in an all-out relationship with them and then they say, oh, well, you know, what do you feel about an open relationship? And you're like, nah, I don't want that. Be like, well, that's what I want. That's what I've done before. That's what I enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with them feeling that way, but we didn't have a conversation early on. So here I am feeling blindsided, like, no, I can't offer you that. And here they are feeling upset that they're not gonna get something that they want that's important to them as well. So I prefer just to get this question out the way early. Now here's the thing, asking someone, do they prefer monogamy? That's not enough, because some people are like, oh yeah, I prefer monogamy, that's my thing. The next question you wanna ask them is, what is your definition of monogamy? I'll tell you, my definition of monogamy is that you and I are the only two people having sex together if we're in a relationship. It means that I'm not going to do anything with anyone else that would be considered cheating, meaning that I'm not even going to develop an intimate emotional bond with somebody else. So I do believe that emotional affairs are real. I'm not gonna do that, and I expect you not to do the same thing. And here's a mistake that a lot of couples make when they wait to address this topic and then it comes out later on that they have different opinions on this topic, is that they are already in love, they're already invested in each other, and then one person pops up and says, hey, I have a different definition of monogamy than you have, or I want an open relationship and you don't. Then you're both invested in each other. One person may say, okay, well, I can compromise and I guess try this for you in order to keep you happy. Then the person who's compromising is pushing past boundaries, which are there for a reason, because this is what allows them to feel safe. And then the other person is sitting up here knowing that they're pushing their partner past their boundaries, which can create some issues for them as well. It ends up not being a good situation for either of them. So I say just go ahead and squash this issue up front and ask the person, do you prefer monogamy? And if so, what is your definition of monogamy? Now my next question goes a little bit deeper, but here's the bottom line. I'm not here to waste my time. I'm here to find my king. So with that said, I don't mind going for the deep stuff, because someone who's also out there looking for their life partner, they're going to be comfortable with these lines of questions. The only people who are uncomfortable with heavy questions are people who are not looking for something serious, because people who are looking for something serious are going to be comforted by the fact that you're asking these bigger questions, and they're going to ask you the same ones right in return or have more for you. So here's my next question. How long was your last relationship, and how long ago did it end? Now, why am I asking these questions? How long was your last relationship? Well, because I am a long-term relationship kind of person. So to me, if you've only been in a string of relationships that were 1 month here, 2 months here, 6 months there, that to me is almost like when someone's applying for a job and you look through their resume and every job they've only been in 6 months or a year. It's like you're a hopper. For whatever reason, you're not able to maintain relationships that exist beyond a certain period of time. And that doesn't work for me because in my mind, I feel like I would be a fool to believe that if you could not maintain long-term relationships before me, that somehow or another I'm going to be the first person you're going to be able to maintain a long-term relationship with. You have to recognize that people's past paints a very good picture of who they are and what they are capable of when they are with you. So I want to know, how long was your last relationship? I also want to know, how long ago did it end? So if you told me my last relationship lasted 3 years and it just ended 2 months ago, that's going to be a little red flag for me right there, because instantly I'm going to think you're probably not ready to be dating yet. And I don't desire to be a rebound, okay? That's just not where I'm at right now. You can try to convince me that, oh no, I'm over them, I'm good. But what I know to be true is that when you've been in a relationship, usually for multiple years, it's going to take you more than a couple months to get over it. One rule of thumb that people say, and I don't agree with this 100%, but they say look at your relationship and then cut the time in half. That's approximately the amount of time it's going to take you to get over that person completely. Now that doesn't mean you need to wait that full amount of time to start dating, but that's what they say. That's when you'll be fully relieved of any feelings towards that person. Again, I don't agree with that, because I don't think that if you've been with someone for 10 years, that means it's going to take you 5 years to get over them. But I do think that generally speaking, a good solid 6 months is a nice time frame to have between relationships. That's just my opinion. So I want to know, how long was your last relationship and how long ago did it end? Because I want to be clear of A, are you capable of long-term relationships? And B, I need to be clear that you're not a serial monogamist and I'm not your rebound. Now, of course, after I've asked about your last relationship, one question that I have no problem asking, and I would tell you definitely ask this question, is simply, why did the relationship end? Why do you believe the relationship ended? I'm just curious. Remember, this is a first date. We're not just here to talk about the weather and where we went to high school, baby. We are here to learn about one another because we both are out here looking for someone to be in partnership with. So no question is too deep as long as you ask it in the right way. Now, here's a little trick on how you can ask a pretty heavy or intimate question and get the person to open up. When you ask the question, what you want to do is first reveal the answer to that same question as if they had asked you it. So let's talk about the question of, why did your last relationship end? If we're talking about past relationships, I'm going to volunteer why my last relationship ended before I ask them why theirs ended. So I'll say something like, you know, my last relationship ended however long ago, and then, you know, it ended because, you know, we grew apart, blah, 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 blah. I'll just, whatever the answer is, I will give them. And I'll say, you know, what about you? Why'd your last relationship end? Now, see, what happens in that moment is something called the law of reciprocity, where because I have revealed something to you, you now feel compelled to reveal the same thing back to me. Also, beyond that, it's created a sense of intimacy because I have put myself out there with information that is fairly vulnerable, fairly intimate, and so you can feel safe doing the same thing with me. Now, here's the thing. When you ask someone why did their last relationship end, it is vitally important that you listen for one key thing. Do they put the breakup all on the other person? Or do they take some responsibility for why it ended? It takes two to tango. And I don't care if you told me, well, my ex was the most abusive, awful person on earth and that's why it ended. My question is, why were you there in the first place? So a healthy answer for it could be, rather than saying my ex was just horrible and mean and I had to leave him, as I would say, you know, we were at a different point in our life back then, and you know, for me, you know, I just didn't feel that great about myself. So I tolerated some things that weren't healthy for me. And, you know, I own that. You know, I stayed in a relationship that just really wasn't good for me because my self-esteem was low. So when I decided to kind of work on my self-esteem, I realized that it was best for me to work on that outside of the relationship. So you see what I did? I acknowledged that the relationship was troubled, but I also acknowledged why I was inspired to stay in that relationship and why I was inspired to leave that relationship. That's really important, because if you're trying to build a relationship with someone who's emotionally whole, someone who's emotionally mature, someone who has emotional intelligence, then it needs to be someone who can take responsibility for why their relationships ended. If someone is coming to the table and all they got to say is, child, it ended because they did this to me and they did that to me and she was this and she was that and he was this and he was that. To me, I don't want to be in a relationship with you, nor do I want to continue to date you, because the reality is that you're living within the role of either being a victim or you have so low emotional intelligence that you don't even understand how you contributed to the very dynamic that you were in, which is that relationship. Now, here's another question to ask them. I'm going to tell you, it's going to stump some of these men, okay? But it's a good question. After you've asked them, why did their last relationship end? One of the things I like to do is I say, well, let me ask you this. And I say with a smile, I say, if I were to ask your ex their opinion of why the relationship ended, what would they say? They'd be like, oh, shoot, that's a hard question. No, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm sure y'all talked about it. Like, why would they say that the relationship ended? I mean, you know, maybe their perspective is different than yours. Now, why do I do that? Because it's another way to ask the question so you can hear the other angle of it. Often, people will reveal information to you when you do it through a third party. Say, well, what would that person say about it? They kind of give you an alternative perspective. Well, you know, my ex would say, you know, sometimes I was a little selfish, or, you know, sometimes, you know, I didn't communicate as well as I would like to. But see, they didn't understand, blah, 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 whatever. I just want to know what your ex would say. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to tell me everything your ex would say, but again, it's a way to get someone to be vulnerable about what really happened without asking them, now, come on, what really happened? Now, the final question, I'm gonna tell you right now, is going to require you to have courage to ask it. But if you can become comfortable with asking this question, it's going to save you so much heartache. It's going to save you from sitting waiting by the phone to see if this person's going to call you or wondering how they feel about you. It's going to save you so much time, and you'll thank me for telling you this question. You ready for this question? All right. The final question is, what is your impression of me? Comment below if you've ever been in this situation where you go on a date with somebody, you think everything went well, you think you all have chemistry and a good rapport, and then you don't hear from them again after that. And you're wondering, what did I do wrong? What went wrong? You know, what's going on? You're left in the dark. You might even start checking their Instagram to see, well, are they alive? Are they, you know, what are they doing? You know, what's going on in their life? You know, you start to wonder when they're going to reach out to you. And it can be a very uncomfortable feeling. And sometimes it can really hurt. Here's my thing. You don't have to be in the dark. You can simply empower yourself enough to ask the question of, what is your impression of me? Now, here's how I may ask, because you know I'm all about charm and using my good feminine energy to be able to ask hard questions. So what I would say is something like this. I would say, you know, I really enjoyed tonight, and it's been really nice learning about you, sharing about me. So I'm just going to ask you a question. You know, I'm just curious about this. What was your impression of me based on tonight? If that person is super into you, they're gonna be like, oh my God, but this was really great. It was refreshing. It was this, it was that. Honey, they're gonna pour it on thick. If the person's a little bit, they're like, well, you know, it was cool. It was cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we'd be great friends. They're gonna say something, they'll say whatever they're gonna say. I'm not saying that you're gonna love the response, but what I am saying is that you deserve to be able to know this information before you get up from that table, before you end whatever that first date is. Because here's the thing. I think that when we don't ask the key questions, then we live in a space of assumption. And when we live in a space of assumption, then that creates room for pain, that creates room for confusion, that creates room for us to stand still. I would rather know if you're into me, that way if I'm into you, we can plan our next date, or know that no, you're really not that into me, so that I can move on with my life and move on to someone else. I don't need the thought of you lingering within my mind, but also in me being able to ask you this question, I can share with you my impression of you so that you're not a bugaboo chasing me down saying, when's our next date? I can tell you, know, I thought this date was really great. You know, I'll tell you, I get more of a friend vibe from you, you know, or I feel like we're looking for different things. I can put that out there too, so we can both walk away with a clear head and move forward in our journey to find our king or find our queen, find whatever it is that we are looking for. If you like this video, what I want you to do is like, comment, share, and subscribe. And of course, comment below this video and let me know, what are some other questions that you think are important to ask on a first date? Questions that you say, you know what, I need to know this information before I'm going to go on a second date with you. Comment below with that information. Thank you so much for watching. I love you to death. Mwah.